Let's be real. Spatial audio may have been a little bit, just a teeny bit underwhelming because, one, there's a heck of a lot of formats out there. And worst of all, it might be ruining your mix. Oh my gosh. Well, folks, I've got good news for you because there's an old saying that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Except in this case, we do want to fix it. First step first, turn it off completely. Just cut it. And this is super simple actually. All you gotta do is go to the top right of your screen, swipe down, and you'll see a volume knob that you can actually hold your finger on, and then it will show a bunch of options. You can go ahead, turn that sucker off. Now the second option, which is a little bit more nuanced, requires learning how spatial audio renderers work. Now, if you listen to both of those renders, you'll notice they sound just a little bit differently. Which one do you prefer? Let me know down in the comments below, first or second. I personally prefer the second one because it evens out the panning a lot more and gives me more of a sense of space, or width as some people call it. And if we go and investigate this in the cookbook code from the last video, which go check it out up there if you haven't yet, we can see that all the rendering is doing here is it's doing this environmental node. And this environmental node is essentially an AVAudioEnvironmentNode. And this will actually only work things in mono, and it also uses a fixed point in space to render this sound. On the other hand, we also have this mixer, which is a mixer 3D, but it's really inheriting from the AVAudio mixer node. And it's really just a special protocol that isn't really doing much here because there's no reverb. On the other hand, we have this new framework that we saw in the first video of this series, which is the phase framework, and that stands for Physical Audio Spatialization Engine. It's a framework that Apple introduced in 2021, and it has a lot of tricks up its sleeve, or good tricks in this case, that we'll get into in this video. First things first, we want to go back to that Audio 3D example and import a framework called AudioKit X and the phase framework itself. Wait a minute, do you hear that? I think somebody's tapping into the phone lines. Have you ever heard that saying before, or am I just too old? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna do today, except we're gonna be using taps and AudioKit. And what taps can do is they can siphon off the audio and direct it where we want it to go. In this case, we want to send audio from AudioKit through the phase engine so that we can apply this spatial rendering to it. To do this, we're going to create a class called phaseTap that inherits from the baseTap class, and we'll have a variable named pushStreamNode that is a phase pushStream node, and that will allow us to override the doHandle tap block, which is where we handle the tap data and send it to the pushStream node that will forward it to phase. Next, we're going to scroll down to the Audio 3D conductor and add in the phase engine with the automatic update mode, which we had in the first video. Next, we're going to go ahead and create a reference frame that could be used later to give ourselves a reference point to the origin. And then we'll create a variable that will initialize later for our tap, which is actually a constant, so it's not a variable. And then we want to put our output through the fader so that we don't play it through the AudioKit engine, and we'll set up the phase listener, set up the transform relative to the reference frame, and then add the listener to the scene. Now all of this is review from the first video, so go check that out if you're lost. Then we're going to create that icosahedron, our favorite shape, and we're going to initialize the source, and then we're going to initialize the source transform to position it in the same position, actually 5 meters in front of the listener this time, and rotate it back towards the listener. Then after that, we're gonna set up our phase engine with the source, and this will also activate the listener. And then we'll set up the spatial pipeline. So this is where we do our reverb, fancy reverb settings, and we'll also be able to set the send level of that reverb. and then we'll be able to set the preset on the phase engine of the reverb. And then we're going to define our push stream node with our audio channel layout and the tag audio stream, and then we'll set its calibration mode to the relative SPL again, and we'll create an event for that streaming node and set it up with the mixer parameters. And this is all a review again, except in this part we're using the push stream node instead of the sound event, so it's a little bit different but not too much. And then we want to initialize that tap with the player, the audio kit node. We want to stream the audio to phase, and then we're going to set the stream sound event. We're actually going to get the push stream node from that stream sound event and assign it to our tap. And then down here we're just doing some stuff to start the phase engine, start the tap, and then stop everything when it de-inits. And we also want to start the stream when we init the class. Nice, we got ourselves some audio, but it's not panned around yet. The first thing we can do is get rid of some of this stuff to clean up our code a little bit. Looks like we're not using this environmental stuff anymore, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete some of these delegate functions that we don't need. Alright, looks like that's almost everything. Now we just need to delete this. Okay, so now we need to somehow pan the audio. And to do that, I'm gonna create a listener that we can pass to our scene coordinator. And for this, we first need to check if the listener has been set yet, and then we need to do some kind of transformation, which I'll leave on my GitHub. And this is kind of a faster way of doing the same transformations without all that camera work. And it's also coming from this awesome repo, credits in the URL up there. And yeah, then we're just gonna get the motion data and apply the transform to it. And this is gonna apply a rotation matrix that we can use to basically have our head pan around the audio. Last but not least, we need to assign that listener to our coordinator now that it's an optional. So we'll do phase listener, but there's a slight problem here, which is that we actually didn't make it a global variable for this class. So we need to go ahead and put that up here, and we will initialize it just like the other ones. And there we go. Now we can call that one, and let's hope this works now. Volume was a little bit low to start, so I had to turn it up just a bit. And yeah, that's about it. In summary, we learned that with just a little determination, anybody can make their spatial audio mix sound better. But we're not quite there yet. There's a lot more to explore. So if you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications, leave a like if you like it, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.